Hey everyone. I have never made a vegan video, and I'm sorry about that because it's really important to me, and I should have been doing it sooner. But every time I sit down to make a video about veganism, I get kind of overwhelmed. There's too much that I want to say. So I want to just kind of, this might be a good avenue for me to do that. Here's an article I found that really triggered me, and pissed me off because it's very inaccurate, it's very stupid, and it's starting to get spread on Facebook, and it's got 16,000 likes. Now, anti-vegan stuff gets a lot of likes because people who are not vegan love to see vegans get it. That's fine, I get it. But what I'm going to do is kind of read this over and then talk about some of the main points of it and tell you why that they're not rational thinking. And, I'll say this humbly because I used to not be vegan. I've been vegan for about 3 years. I was vegetarian for 3 years before that. But before that, I was, big meat eater. Absolutely. And I said some of these things myself. So I understand where you're coming from. But I want you to understand now that these things are not rational thinking. So I'm going to go over this right now and kind of debunk this article. And maybe this might be a good way to narrow down what I want to say. And let me get a few points in. So let's go over this. So the title is the funniest part. Someone explained why veganism is not cruelty-free, and it might make you think twice before going vegan. Someone explained. I love how it isn't like an ex-vegan explained or a doctor explained or, even anyone qualified in any way, like for any reason, a butcher even, someone. Like what kind of a title is that? All right, let's continue though. There are many reasons why people decide to go vegan, but according to these meat eaters, the lifestyle shouldn't be adopted because it's cruelty-free. They argue that even cruelty-free international certified products aren't entirely innocent if one was to look at the food industry as a whole. So is this someone who explained it? These meat eaters? These meat eaters are that someone? And where are they explaining this? Like, what is this article? Forced labor, exploitation of workers, hazardous extreme working conditions, lack of labor rights protecting agricultural workers, and extremely low wages are still very common problems in the food supply chains. Agriculture is even responsible for 70% of child labor. Since 2012, the amount of kids working in the industry has increased by 10 million, reaching 108 million in total. And what about the Bolivians who can no longer afford their staple grain quinoa? The dramatic increase in demand in the Western world made its price triple since 2006. So this article is saying that, so basically they're focusing on the concept of cruelty-free and saying that there's no such thing as cruelty-free food, period, because of forced child labor, exploitation of workers, hazards, blah, blah, blah. So even us vegans who are buying our Brussels sprouts, we're participating in all of these things, so we're not as high and mighty as we want to seem. That's the article. This is I can see the gymnastics that go on to use this as a justification for what you're doing. But here's the difference. There's a couple of key points here. Well, the first is just strictly mathematical. Animals eat a lot more produce than humans. So if you actually want to reduce these things here, you should actually eat less meat, because feeding a person 2,000 calories of vegetables is way more efficient and requires way less agriculture than feeding that person 2,000 calories of meat, because the cow that meat came from, or pig, ate a lot more than 2,000 calories of grain first. Currently on this planet, there are 50 billion land animals that are farmed. So there's 8 billion people and 50 billion animals. Where's all of our agriculture going, do you think? Is it going to feed the people, or is it going to feed the animals? Can you imagine how much produce 50 billion animals are eating? You can't bother imagining that. So if you want to talk about forced labor and extremely low wages and blah, 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 that's all coming from feeding cows for the most part, And the Bolivians who can't afford quinoa, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm vegan, but vegans aren't the only ones eating quinoa. Quinoa became an American consumerism fad recently, and it's in everything. You go to any place and it's salmon and quinoa bowl, and it's chicken and quinoa bowl. Why are you blaming vegans for that? You have like some kind of a thing for Bolivia, then do something about that. But it has nothing to do with veganism or not. Veganism is like, they're literally like 1.5% of the American population. You think we're the reason Bolivians are going under? Thanks for the fucking, you know, pat on the back, but I don't think we're that major yet. But that's the, you know, mathematics is just more vegetables are needed to make meat. So vegans actually contribute way less to all of these things. But yeah, true. Cruelty-free as a textbook definition. If you hardline cruelty-free, then you got me. Veganism is not cruelty-free. However, when you're eating a steak, that is like a one-to-one connection to a dead animal. When you purchase a steak, you're actually paying somebody to cut a cow's throat and cut a piece of meat out of its body. That is like a one-to-one comparison. And I hope you can understand how that's different than the incidental cruelty that happens when, you know, a third world country exploits children for labor, or when a squirrel gets eaten by a harvester in a cornfield. You know, I hope you can understand that. And if you can't understand that, let me explain it this way. If you hit somebody with your car intentionally, or pay someone to hit someone with a car intentionally, like your ex-wife, for example, that is not the same as someone hitting someone on accident or exploitation of workers building cars. Just because I own a car doesn't mean that I'm responsible for the exploitation of the workers in the car lot or the car accident that happened next door, which I wasn't even driving in. And there's a difference. I mean, you could say that I'm a little bit responsible because if I really cared, I wouldn't buy a car in the first place. I mean, maybe. But there's a big difference in me running someone over versus someone being run over accidentally because they're coming to my house. Okay? So those are the big differences here. This is basically a fallacy. It's the utopia fallacy or the nirvana fallacy, where basically you're saying if everything can't be made perfect, then there's no point in trying. You know, so it's like saying passing drug laws doesn't work because there's still drugs in the world or in America. You know, so drug laws don't work because there's still drugs. Well, if you can't get rid of all drugs completely, then there's no point in any laws. You know, gun violence. If you can't stop all gun violence, there's no point in any gun regulation. It's like that. If you can't stop all cruelty, there's no point in making ethical eating decisions. Hope you understand. Let's move on. So, okay, this article gets even worse because all it is a compilation of people's tweets. Once again, I have no idea what this is based on. I guess it could be based on this Faunalytics study where it talks about vegans' percentages of lapsing in their diet. But I don't see why they're explaining cruelty-free diets in here. I guess that's why they lapse, because they realize that their diet's not cruelty. I don't know. Anyway, then we got a bunch of like tweets and social media posts. So let's go over some of these, and I'll kind of give you my take on them. Veganism is not affordable. I don't know you, okay? You watching? I don't know you. I don't know your financial state. But if you have a computer, access to the internet, and you're wasting your time watching this fucking video on YouTube, then I would say I would put $1 million that you definitely can afford to go vegan. I have a hard time imagining the kind of person who has a computer, and I mean, I guess you can go to the library to watch my fucking YouTube videos. Thank you for that honor. But probably you're just sitting on your laptop, you know, looking at me, and you can definitely afford to eat vegan. Being vegan is not expensive. You know, this, I guess, comes from the idea that you have to buy those vegan burgers and those vegan hot dogs, which do cost more. And they cost more because meat is subsidized by your tax dollars. And it's very actually offensive to me because they're subsidized by my tax dollars as well. So I'm a vegan, and my tax money is being taken and given to butchers and, you know, cattle ranchers to float their fucking dying business model. And it makes their products cost less than the not subsidized fake meats. But yes, fake meats and alternatives, and vegan cheese, vegan butter, they are more expensive. However, all the things that are vegan by default, like beans, rice, pasta, vegetables, and fruits, are really not expensive. If you're telling me, like, look, I can buy a dozen bananas for like $3. You know, I could buy 5 pounds of rice for, I don't know what, $7, and that'll last me weeks. Pasta's not expensive. So, and I don't know where they got the idea that meat and cheese is so cheap anyway. Cheese is pretty pricey, you know, and like good cuts of meat are expensive too. So if you can afford to buy ribeyes, you can afford to go vegan, all right? Anyway, Veganism is not cruelty-free. Okay, I mean, like I said, the definition of cruelty-free can go a lot of ways. It's less cruel, and if you care about being less cruel, which you should, because that's ethical, then this would be something. Veganism is not the best choice for everyone. Well, everyone's a very broad statement. There are rare cases where you literally are an Inuit in an Arctic village and you can't possibly farm, and there's a blizzard, so the food truck can't arrive to deliver the fresh produce from, the warm places, and you can only eat fish. Okay, but back to my example of, if you're watching this video and you have access to the internet, then it's probably the best choice for you. And if you're allergic to soy, it's still the best choice for you because you don't need to eat soy. And if you're allergic to peanuts, it's still the best choice for you because you don't need to eat peanuts. Allergies are an excuse, I guess you could be allergic to like a lot of things except for meat, and that would make it really uncomfortable for you to be vegan. And I believe that. I believe you'd be uncomfortable. But you can't possibly be allergic to everything. And most people aren't allergic to a lot of things. So for probably 90% of the population, it's certainly the best choice for everyone. And that's close enough for me. All right, then there's like some vegans commenting back. People are literally starving in South America because all the quinoa crop is being exported mainly for white vegans who want to live cruelty-free. Like I said, the population of vegans is like less than 2%. I don't know why they have to point out they're white. I guess that's fine. I'll take it. But the population of vegans is so small that we're definitely not putting the South American quinoa crop growers out of business. Crop has become a superfood in American marketing, and that's why that's happening. And if you have an issue with that, you can have an issue with that. It has nothing to do with being vegan. Vegans do eat quinoa, but so do meat eaters. 4 out of 8 of the most common food allergies are common vegan substitutes. That's true, but you don't need to eat any substitutes to be vegan. You can just eat vegetables and rice and pasta and fruit, and that's a vegan diet, and that's all available for you. There's the protein myth, of course. Oh, excuse me. See that? The protein myth, of course, is that we need to eat like 1 million grams of protein to survive. That's not the case. You will get sufficient protein even if you can eat nuts and soy and wheat. And wheat. Wow. They snuck wheat in there, huh? Wheat and peanuts and nuts and soy. Okay, well, that's a lot of allergies. If you got all those allergies, then good luck. That's all I can say. I would literally starve to death if I couldn't eat cheese or meat because my body cannot process nuts. So once again, you got meat and cheese here, and you got nuts over here. Well, I can't eat this one, so I must eat that one. What about the rest? What about the rest of it? What about the apples and tomatoes? Can you eat those? Or plus, there are vegan articles floating around decrying the use of honey. Plus what? Plus because you think that the honey argument is dumb, then you won't go vegan. Forget about the honey argument. Okay, this is like so far down the rabbit hole. You got to stop eating cows and pigs and chickens first. Then you can worry about honey. Don't let this get clogged up in your head. This is like a really dumb thing to latch onto. It's way down there. So I would say you don't even need to worry about talking about honey until you are already vegan. Only then do you enter how vegan do you want to be. That's where I'll say. But I think we can all agree that pigs and cows and chickens don't want their throats cut to be on your dinner plate, and you should respect that because you can eat something that doesn't care, like a potato. Seeing as many vegans don't think or don't care about the human cruelty aspects of veganism, like I said, that's explained. We can't stop all cruelty. We don't control how third world countries manage their government, but eating vegan is less cruel to the whole world. From the agricultural perspective, the environmental perspective, and the health perspective. It's less cruel in all of those ways than a meat eater diet. So this post is incredibly long, and I don't give a shit about it. Now we got some Reddit posts. It's impossible to live cruelty-free. Okay. I'm vegan, blah, blah, blah. I love meat, but this all ignores the point that 90% of our crops are grown to feed cows and pigs. Oh, there you go. So that's a pro vegan one. Others completely agreed. Here we go. Catherine Spadia. Being deathly allergic to peanuts, severely intolerant to soy, and going down the same route with the rest of the legume family. I love this post. I literally cannot go vegan because it will make me very sick. I love this post. Are we talking about that above post? Like that post above? Why do you love that post? This is about how being vegan is not cruelty-free, and her problem is with all allergies. She just loves that being vegan, all of a sudden, she's absolved of her guilt of being vegan because it's not cruelty-free. What does this even mean? I got in a large argument about how meat eating should be banned, and I asked them how the Inuit and other Arctic living groups would get enough vegetables to sustain themselves. Well, Connie, I'm assuming you're American. I'm making that assumption because it's my perspective. You could be European, I guess. Probably not Inuit, though. I don't know any Inuits on Facebook. Never seen one, and she doesn't look like an Inuit. So if America, or your European country of choice, or your first world country of choice, Brazil, if they ban meat, that has nothing to do with Inuit or Arctic living groups. America's not going to ban the Inuits from eating meat. They're going to just ban it here. Not that anybody's talking about banning it, but I'm just saying, like, your argument against banning meat is what would happen to the Inuits. They're not subject to American laws or whatever law you come from. They have their own laws. But if you want to talk about the Inuits, once again, you're not one. So there are situations that apply to you. It's like saying, like, it's okay to kill someone in self-defense, but it's not okay to kill someone in a different context, right? You agree with that, don't you? Well, the Inuits can't possibly eat vegetables to survive, so their choice are either to die or kill. Well, if that's your choice, I can't relate, because I'm too busy on fucking Facebook clicking around, going to the grocery store using my credit card. So it's not really a reasonable comparison, is it? I once had a roommate named Todd. He was vegan. Most pretentious person I ever met. Not only was there a speech about anything I ate, there was always facts about animal cruelty, etc. This guy was an urban forager, blah, blah, blah. Okay, look. There are some vegans that are pretentious and rude, and they're urban foragers, and they're named Todd. I don't know. What I will say, though, is that doesn't make them wrong. That doesn't make the argument wrong. And because you met a vegan once you didn't like, doesn't mean you can discount the whole movement and philosophy. And I find it pretty interesting that when you're presented facts about animal cruelty, instead of considering how you contribute to that cruelty, you call the person who gave you facts pretentious. I think that's a defense mechanism that's pretty pronounced. And then, of course, again, here we go. Actually, animals still get killed as they harvest your vegetables. More vegetables are harvested to make meat for you than they would be to be directly fed to vegans. So if you are really sympathetic to the mice and birds and rabbits that get killed by harvesters, you should eat less meat. So that's this garbage article written by fucking Monica Brazitier-Tet. Someone explained why veganism is not cruelty-free. I mean, look. I guess it's true that there's nothing we can eat that's completely cruelty-free unless you do it all yourself. But none of us are going to do that. So I would say you should do what's less cruel. And that's probably pretty good. Not asking someone to slit a cow's throat just so you can eat its body would be a good start. So I hope you appreciated this video. Leave some comments. I would love to hear about them. If you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them. Thanks for watching.